Hello, everyone. I hope everyone can hear me and see my slides. So yeah, I'm joining for quite far away from Sydney. So it's 6 a.m. at the moment, a little bit more than that. And so I'm really looking forward to speak at this awesome meetup. And so thank you for the introduction. So yeah, this talk is about progressive state management with ngXs. But yeah, so I have a couple of slides to introduce myself really quick. So yeah, my name is Aliaksei Kuncevič. I'm an Angular expert, mentor, and independent consultant. Helping dev teams to adopt Angular in the most efficient way. And I'm organizing, as been said already, a few other meetups. So yeah, and I'm teaching Angular at kuncevič.dev. Also, I am creator of Frontend Watch, which is an online resource where you can learn more about the modern front-end frameworks. And I'm part of Ngxs core team. Ngxs core team is a global team of world-class professionals who on a mission to make Ngxs the best state management solution for Angular. Today, we'll talk about progressive state management. As a part of this talk, I will cover common problems with the single-page apps and how to solve them. I won't focus on all the problems, just on a few specific ones, the ones related to this talk. Then I will introduce the reactive services approach and will show how to implement reactive services in your apps. And then I will talk about state management in general and how to take your app from reactive services to the next level using ngXs. So what is the progressive state management, you may wonder? Progressive state management is a technique that allows to progressively enhance the functionality of application state in a way that won't affect the existing application data flow. Basically, this way we are keeping things simple at first, so trying not to introduce additional layers of complexity. And once, in case if your application start to grow, so you might think, oh yeah, actually I need another layer, let's use state management. So what is the most common challenge we are facing developing single-page apps using modern front-end frameworks like Angular? It's a component communication, basically the data flow. In many cases, when component initiating a change, everything would rely on the change we want to be updated accordingly. Basically, we need to build a, in that case, a push kind of reactive architecture. And so, yeah, I will cover that in later on today. I'll show you a demo on that. So normally our apps has a nested component structure. Components within the structure interacting with each other, and this way the data changes and flows around. So yeah, the component communication can get really, really crazy. Here is a simple example of filtering. Based on a search term on a filter component, the result component needs to be updated with the new data accordingly. So it's a very simple example here. Sometimes we can solve that problem just by using input and output mechanism every Angular developer familiar with. But in case of deep nested components, which you probably have to avoid as much as you can, it might introduce a bit of boilerplate and code smell that we had to maintain going forward. But we want to keep things simple and maintainable, right? So for that, let's use reactive services. Using reactive services approach, we can solve the component communication in a unique and elegant way. And simple, yeah. So what's reactive service? Reactive service is just a wrapper on top of React.js behavior subject. I think every Angular developer loves React.js, right? So I will show you details on how to implement reactive services soon in an upcoming demo. So what if this behavior subject, we can create observable. So we can kind of set the default value, set a new value, and get current value, and then yeah, we can actually make it so the other consumers, right, the subscribers can access the latest value by accessing .sObservable method on that. So actually, let's see the demo now. So that's the demo I'm gonna walk through today. It's a very simple example, just a couple of components, parent child, little child component, and a container component. So basically, every inner component have a value, so which I can increase and decrease, and the container component just displaying a summary here. So let's see how it's all implemented. So here I have this counter service, counter service. So it has a shape of my state, initial state as well, so I can pass it as the initial value. And so then I have this service. It's just a normal class, TypeScript class. I'm declaring the behavior subject within this class, and so I'm exposing it as an observable to consumers using this .asObservable method on behavior subject, and then I have a couple of methods. So to actually change, which calling these methods can change some properties, some data, right, or state within my behavior subject. So I have set value 1, set value 2, and so on. So and here I'm just calling .next and passing my new value. So it looks like this. At some point I realized, hey, I actually want to abstract a behavior subject. I don't want to kind of access it like that. I want to make this class a little bit smaller. And so I come up with this idea called Rx service. It's just a small library which wraps behavior subject. As you can see, it's pretty much the same code here, except there is no behavior subject. So yeah, there's a difference. So I am extending Rx service class. And it's where actually my behavior subject for this particular use case coming from, but yeah, it's not visible. So however, I found this way on some smaller projects is working well for me. Right, but there is not much difference, just a couple of lines less, that's all. But anyway, so let's see how we can consume all that in our components. So I just open a parent component, and so yeah, here what I do, I just inject in my counter service here within the constructor. So then I can access a value. In this case, I'm accessing value 1 because it's parent component, so it's looking for value 1, and then by calling counter store.setValue, I can change this value, right? And within my template, so yeah, I can call update value by passing different numbers. So in this case, I can decrease or increase the number by 1, and also I'm subscribing for value $sign with a simple pipe. It's a nice shortcut for this particular case. So yeah, that's how it looks like. Yeah, so I think it's all looking. Yeah, if you have guys any questions, just post them in the comments. Yeah, that's the demo basically, and let's move on. So yeah, if you want to build a simple project, so you can just use Rx service if you want. If you want to learn more about Rx service, you can check this URL. So let's talk about state management now and how it could be helpful to simplify component communication and data flow. So what's your favorite state management solution? Post in comments, let us know. Here's a top of 4 state management solutions for Angular, Ngxs, ngRex, Akita, and Mabex. I think most of you probably already heard some of those names, and maybe when you use them in your projects. So what are the benefits of state management? Using state management, we can simplify the component communication and implement predictable data flow in our application. Make it easier to test and debug the application. You can apply same consistent practices across the teams within your organization and so on. So now let's talk about Ngxs specifically. Ngxs actually, in my opinion, is fully qualified as a progressive state management for your Angular applications, and soon you will find why. So what are the features of Ngxs? Ngxs is very simple to learn. It has a minimum boilerplate. Ngxs is all about Angular thinking, or Angular way of doing things, as dependency injection and decorators are the first-class citizens of Ngxs. You can even use promise-based async operators for some edge cases if you need. Also, Ngxs is backed by a great community that you can reach out in the Slack if you have any questions or want to discuss anything directly with the team. Ngxs provides you a global immutable data store components can dispatch actions to mutate the data. You can handle the actions once they dispatch. You can select pieces of the stored data using selectors that expose the data in a form of observables. As you can see, ngXS gives you a predictable cycle, and it might be very beneficial to use ngXS in a complex apps with a crazy data flow. So at some point, you might realize you had enough reactive services and behavior subjects in your application. And so you might decide to move away from it to a proper, fully featured state management solution. So let's see how to convert our reactive services to ngXS. So here I have another demo. It's from UI standpoint, it's exactly the same, right? All the same number of components, right? So clicking every component has this number, which I can increase, decrease. So yeah, it's all the same. But let's see how it's all implemented now with ngXS. So let's see this folder called state. And within this folder, there is like 3 files. So let's open the state file. So this is already familiar to you. It's the same interface with initial state. So now I have this counter state, which decorated with a state decorator. So I can pass defaults. Also, I have a number of functions. It's the same number of functions, like 3 functions and reset counter. And so every of these functions, they decorated with action attributes. So what's happened here, in order to execute this function, we actually not calling it directly, we just dispatch an action. So once this action is get dispatched, this function related to this particular action gets executed. So let's see what actions actually here. So actions actually represented by classes. So here I have a file, a separate file called actions. And so yeah, I declared all my actions here in this file. Sometimes we want to actually pick something from state, right? So we want to access value 1, value 2, and so on. So for that, ngXS has a thing called selectors. So I have this counter.queries file where I'm declaring all my selectors. And so, yeah, basically, if you want to pick, say, value 1, so we have to call our counter state selector. And I show you how it's getting, how we can actually use selectors in the components pretty soon. So yeah, that's our state, actions, and queries, which is actually a file which contains selectors. Okay, let's have a look at parent component. So here, what I do, I am injecting a store. So it's a class which comes from, it's actually object comes from ngXS store package. So I'm not injecting my state directly here, as you can see. So then in order to dispatch actions, so I just call in .store dispatch method and pass in my action with a new value. And in order to access a value, so here I'm calling my selector. For this particular case, it's I'm selecting value 1, so which gets exported as an observable. So if anything in the store changes, if value 1 changes, so I can automatically get the recent value. And so this component displays the latest value. And let's have a look at the HTML template. As you can see, there is no difference from previous example. It's the same HTML basically. So I can call update function, and also I can subscribe to observable using XMPath. So yeah, that's all looking very same. It means we don't have to change HTML for this particular case. When we migrating from reactive services to ngXS, all we need to do, we have to define a state, 3 files, actions, queries with selectors, and yeah, so that's how we consuming them in a component. So let's move on. ngXS has such thing called plugins, and it's where the progressive parts come. So the plugin system allows you to, oops, I have to disable something here, sorry guys. because my screen gets darker, it's kind of, okay, whatever. So here is the plugin system. You can tap into which allows you to tap into the state changes lifecycle. So you're able to extend the core functionality of ngXs. Here's a list of plugins built by community that is currently available as a separate NPM packages. So you can just simply NPM install that into your application to get benefit of it. If you want to learn more about ngXs, check out this URL and let's see some of those awesome plugins in action. So here I have a couple of plugins installed. It's a Logger module and Redux Devtools Plugin. So yeah, I disable them for production, but sometimes you want to enable them for production in case if you want to chase a viewer back. But most of the time, usually you have to disable it. So here, let me show you Logger plugin first. So that's basically when we changing some values within the state. You can see something happening in the console. So it means in this case, everything, all your state getting logged. So you can actually inspect it if you in a development phase, and if you want to actually debug, maybe or chase a bug. I'll show you the Devtools later if we have time, because I need to break some of the view on my screen. As you can see, I'm on full screen everything. So yeah, I just don't want to break it. So let's go on, and if we have time, I'll show you the Redux Devtools plugin later on in the end. So now I want to talk about Ngxs Labs. It's a separate organization on GitHub that exists to test out and to prototype new ideas and proof of concepts. It is something that potentially may become a part of ngXs core functionality or official plugin if community agree and core team. So there is lots of things available right now at Ngxs Labs that you can play with. Some of the Labs plugins actually production ready. If you want to learn more about Ngxs Labs, check out this URL. And now I want to show you Ngxs Data plugin, which is part of Ngxs Labs. Ngxs Data is a persistence API based on repository pattern. It has a lot of great stuff in it. And probably the main benefit of using Ngxs Data is that you write even less boilerplate. Yes, even less. And now let's see how it looks in action. So it's the same application here. Same number of components, I can decrease and increase number, show the summary. Nothing changed here from UI perspective. Let's see how it's all implemented. So here's my folder in Ngxs Labs data. Okay, state. And within this folder, you can see just one file. So yeah, that's all we need actually to implement the Ngxs Data. That's only one thing. So you are already familiar with this interface and initial state. So yeah, we have to decorate our class with a state decorator and with state repository decorator, which comes from Ngxs Labs data. Then we can pass initial state here, and so the same number of functions, but now they decorated with data action decorator. And so, as you might guess, yeah, basically that's how it works now. So there is no actions here, as you can see. Let's see how our components now looks like. The component class. Boom. There is just constructor and ng underneath. There is nothing else here. Yes, and it's all right. It's all looking good. It's not a mistake. So what we do now, we just injecting content.state into these components, and we're done. There is something here we have to do in our template now. As you can see, the structure of HTML is the same, but now in order to call update value one, so we actually call it like counter.update value one. So counter, it's our so our kind of state here. So now we're injecting, so before, if you remember, I was injecting the state class, right? And then I dispatched methods. So now I'm just injecting my store theme, right? So I'm injecting it into my component constructor. And so now I can access, I am accessing basically properties on my counter.state. So it's a little bit different here, right? And so in order to update the latest value, I have to do counter.snapshot.value1. So that's a little bit difference here. And it gives me the latest value. So I don't have to use async pipe now. So yeah, it's a little bit of less code I have to use. Not everyone probably would like this approach, but some who like, you can try and see if it works for you. So let me show you the last thing, which is Devtools Plugin. So here, oops, if I access this, if I press this magic button, so you can see the Devtools plugin here, and it's disappearing, but yeah, sorry, I just walk you really quickly through that. So that's the Devtools plugins. For those who don't know, this one comes from, it's just a extension for Chrome browser. You can install it yourself on your browser, and so you can basically, it gives you very rich debugging capabilities in case if you're stuck with a weird bug. So you can use this nice plugin. So it works with many other state management solutions, and I believe it comes from actually React community many years ago, and so people in Angular community also adopted this plugin. It's really cool. So check it out, and hopefully it will be helpful for you when you're developing your awesome Angular application. You can do lots of things with that. Even you can replay. So there's like magic replay button. If you click it, you can replay the actions, and yeah. So you can see how your UI changed without actually you changing it by clicking it. So yeah, have a look on that. Let me go through my presentation. I guess I have like a few slides left. So if you want to learn more about Ngxs Labs data, you can check this URL. And just to wrap up, so today I talk about reactive services and how to start your application using behavior, how to implement that using behavior subjects. Then I move to explaining to you how to you can write your awesome state using Ngxs and why we need state management. And then I give a little bit walkthrough through the Ngxs plugins and Ngxs Labs, and I show you Ngxs data and some other awesome Ngxs plugins available. So yeah, try it out, and if you like it, I hope it will make you a happier developer. And thank you for listening, everyone. You can connect on LinkedIn, Twitter, Dev2. And if you want to learn more about Angular, you can subscribe for my daily list at kuncevič.dev/daily. And so that's the links. I will share the slides, and I will share a code example for those who want to play with the code I show you today. Thank you very much.